to another episode of my little series where I sew dresses inspired by the books I read. So make yourself a cup of tea, that is essential for this one. Find a cozy spot and settle in so we can chat about books and dresses. Now, today's book is actually not just one book, it's a series. It is the Love's Academic series. Now, these books have made me laugh so much. I haven't felt this way reading a book since I was a little girl, I think. They were just so funny and I laughed out loud so many times, which I don't really do very often when reading, and yeah, they were just hilarious. These books are just such a magical mix of historical romance and adventure and coziness and the romance is lovely and they're just such a wonderful time. I really recommend them. If you like those light academia Pinterest boards, then these are for you. You're gonna love these. They're mostly just a vibe. Now, I want to tell you about the plot of each book while I sew, because they're a companion series. But for that, we actually have to talk about what we're gonna sew. Now, I felt like this dress had to be white cotton just because there's so much talk of white cotton dresses or petticoats or nightgowns, those fabulously flowy Victorian nightgowns. I frankly felt like it would have been wrong not to do a white cotton dress, and I felt like this embroidered cotton that I've had since I think last year in my little fabric stash. My little fabric stash is actually all around the apartment. I'm sort of taken over every cupboard. But I felt like it was perfect. I've also already made one dress inspired by the first book, but I wasn't really very happy with that. But it did feel very comfy. And it was the same fabric. And it was for the first book, so it felt only right to use it again. And I am going to repurpose a pattern I drafted a few weeks ago, the one with the fluttery sleeves, because frankly I just really like wearing it and I want another one for when this one's in the laundry. And for the embroidery, I want a small little embroidery that is just okay, tea is such a central topic in these. I cannot overstate this, how important tea is to, especially the plot of the third book, but also just for the general vibe. There's a lot of tea talk. So I felt like it had to be tea-related embroidery, and so I picked these little tiny embroideries, and I'm not sure where I'm going to put them yet. They might just be a secret little thing on the skirt, or I might put them on the neckline. We'll find out together, I guess. So I haven't actually done any of it. I was also thinking of maybe adding a bow somewhere or a sash around the waist, but I'm not sure about that. I don't know. But anyways, let me tell you about the plot of each book. We are gonna switch because the first book is The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, which is the pink one. By the way, I really like these covers. I think they're lovely. Aren't they lovely? I think they're beautiful. Alright, book one. This is Beth and Devon's book. Gotta say, I don't really love the name Devon, but that's, a side issue. They are both rival ornithologists. Ornithologists, they care about researching and capturing and protecting birds. Rare and also magical birds. Now, at the very start of this book, Beth is actually about to catch this bird. I think it's called, a death whistler. Devon swoops in, steals the bird from her, and escapes via her flying parasol, which is it's very fun. He is pretty immediately infatuated with her, and she with him, even though she's very upset that he stole the bird from her. And when they meet each other again in Paris, I think, at this hotel for this conference, they are they keep looking at each other, and it's very I think these two, I'm gonna say right now, have the best chemistry, the one that worked the most for me. I really like a part of each of the romances, but these two I was the most. Now when they are in Paris, news gets out that there's gonna be this bird catching competition to catch this one specific bird that's hilariously supposed to have been there for the Last Supper, Jesus, which is very fun, I think. It's just so fun. So everyone rushes out to get this bird, and Beth and Devon sort of end up weirdly working together, or at least they stick together for a while, but they still pretend to be rivals, but they are falling for each other, and it's quite cute. It's also just okay, let me read you one passage of the book because it's just so fun. I love how this is written. It's honestly my favorite part. The writing is my favorite part of this. Now, this little passage is from when they have found out that there's going to be a competition, and Beth is still together with this awful woman she's been working for. The woman is telling her she must get this whistle, like the call of the bird, so they can more easily find the bird. Are you certain, Hippolyta? Lady Trimble murmured, frowning anxiously at Beth. It seems inappropriate for a young lady to be robbing a museum unchaperoned. The world is a dangerous place these days, you know. Nonsense. Macaron crumbs sprayed from Hippolyta's lips like tiny pink exclamation marks. Elizabeth is both capable and sensible. Thank you for your concern, Lady Trimble, Beth added with a smile, but I shall be quite safe. After all, what possible trouble could I encounter in a museum? I just love these. I think they're so fun. Anyways, they travel back to England to find this bird, and I just love the sort of like adventure-y, summery feel of this whole thing. I love a travel story. There's lots of traveling, and it's just very cute. The romance is cute, and the writing just made me laugh so much. I also got the audiobook of this because I thought it was so fun, and whoever is the lovely lady doing the reading for this audiobook is doing an absolutely fabulous job. Fantastic work. Alright, so I'd say most swoon-worthy chemistry, and I really like the travel aspect. Now on to book 2, which is The Geographer's Map to Romance. Now this one is about Elodie and Gabriel, who got married very much for convenience. For honestly a little bit of silly convenience, but it's supposed to be silly, you know? But pretty immediately after getting married, got very estranged from each other for just mutual stupidity, frankly, and have been living separate lives ever since, but still work for the same university. I'll talk about that later. But they are both geographers. She is very chaotic and free-spirited, and she's just, very fun. And he is quite grumpy, quite quiet, and just very sort of strict in the way he approaches things. He's also Devon's cousin and best friend, and the third book is about his sister. So these two both get called on this mission after this magical thing is happening in this village pretty far out in Wales, and then sort of have to work with each other and sort of confront stuff that was left unsaid when they separated. Now, alright, so I very, very much loved the actually romantic, sort of swoon-worthy moments in this. They were very cute. I really like a married couple. I think it's cute. The problem just is, okay, so the reason why they got married was just a little too silly for me, even though I know these books are just really fun, but I don't know, I couldn't really get behind that. Then for some reason they genuinely consummated the marriage. We don't see that, but it was just well, okay. It turns out they both had a crush on the other person, but still, it was kind of just so they consummated the marriage, completely before the book even starts, and then they part for the stupidest reason, and I just, when something can be solved with a conversation, especially when that conversation is not even I'm truly mad at you for something that you did, but the conversation is just I think you don't care about me, and they both think that, I get a little frustrated. It's it just doesn't work for me. It's folks, you're adults. My word. And jump over your own shadow. Just tell them you like them. Especially, it's I don't know. I feel like you're supposed to find the hero attractive. And it's it's just not very hot for a guy to be too shy to say he likes his wife. I just can't get behind that. And it's a little bit he wants to not bother her. He thinks she doesn't like him and regrets it. But it's well, still it's worth, saying it, I think. Anyways, it's also because it's a very light-hearted book, and so there's no real confrontation of any issues, which I don't want. These are light-hearted fun books. I don't need that. However, the issue of okay, we haven't talked in so long and we think we hate each other. It's just it's too much of an issue to be lighthearted, but also it doesn't get really approached, and I don't know, I just didn't like that part. But I really there's one very, very swoon-worthy scene where you can see that he cares about her very much, and that's really nice. I just like a guy that can say I like this girl. I just think that's more attractive. But I love the bits where the romance was just shining through, and I really thought the plot was very cute. And it was very fun. Alright, Book 3. Now this is the one I just finished. This book is about Amelia and Caleb. Amelia is Gabriel's sister. She and Caleb are both antiquarians. They have been best friends since childhood, and we later find out that Caleb actually became an antiquarian for her because he wanted to be with her, which I find very romantic. He's just a very romantic guy. He's actually a very unusual hero. So he grew up very, very poor. Like, you know, like Victorian England, very poor. And so he now very, very much cares about like cleanliness and also just like wearing expensive things and stuff. He's very concerned with outside appearance, but also with just like tidiness and cleanliness. He hates like dirt from, you know, from the place where he grew up in. And I think that's quite interesting and quite unusual, and I didn't mind it at all. I also really liked his backstory. I thought that it made a lot of sense. Now, these two care deeply about each other, but a few months, I want to say, ago, they were seen being a little too cozy somewhere because they both have a crush on each other, but they're also just like very, very good friends. But they were seen being a little too close to each other, and there were rumors going around, and Amelia was very worried about losing her job because the men deciding over her job kind of don't like her and are sort of just looking for a reason to get rid of her. So for the last little while, they've been pretending to like hate each other and just, you know, been bickering or pretending to bicker, but they still really, really like each other. And I really liked that this was pretend bickering because I do not like a enemies to lovers thing. I'm just not the kind of girl for that. But they get sent on this assignment together where they have to go to this house out in the country and catalog a bunch of antiquities that this guy has been like essentially hoarding and see which ones are magical and which ones aren't. And there's also a magical teaspoon, which is part of her embroidery. And just being out there in the country with each other and also with a couple of museum workers, it's just sort of a way of confronting like, are we gonna like be willing to lose our jobs over this relationship? Because at least for Amelia, that is like a very, very real risk. These two are absolutely adorable with each other. They're very, very cute, and I really, really like them together. I like how much they just like deeply care about each other. There aren't as many like electrically romantic moments, I think, as there are in this one, but it's very just like quietly romantic, and I really, really like it. I really bought that these two very, very much care about each other, and I thought that was lovely. The ending of this was also just my favorite. I'm not going to give it away, but I am going to have a little spoiler warning, or just like the tiniest bit, but it does reveal who the villain is essentially in this one, and so I will tell you to skip to here if you want to read it, and you absolutely should. Alright, I love the way the villain was treated in this at the very end. So the villain ends up being this like young girl who's kind of been like playing a little dumb to fly under the radar, and she's been pretending to be like a secretary or something, I think, but in reality she is a smuggler and like has connections to like the black market and is trying to get the teaspoon so that its magic can help her like steal other antiquities, and it's just very fun. So one, she runs off with the teaspoon, so she's clearly at least a thief. And the other two, there's these two old guys. They're like professors from the museum or like the university. And they just keep being like, oh, she wouldn't do anything bad. She's such a well-bred lady. You know, she's such a, you know, elegant young lady. She would never do these things. And then when they find her literally with the teaspoon in the process of stealing something else, they're like, ugh, she was, you know, corrupted by someone else, or like she was just misguided. And they refuse to believe that she's like evil. And it's just very funny, I think. Alright, so final thoughts. Now, these books are pretty much unlike anything else I've ever read, and I've read a lot of things. They are very lighthearted, very heartfelt, and just very, very fun. But in my eyes, they aren't really, I mean, they are romances, but if you want like a deep, like emotional romance, these aren't going to be what you're looking for. These are more just like vibes. They're really just, it's just a really, really delightful, pleasant time. If you're having a bad day, like this will cheer you right up. And when I say these are just like a pleasant time, I mean that in the like most positive way possible. I loved these, and I will read anything this author writes. She's actually gonna bring out a new book, and I love what she said about the plot so far. I really, really like how it sounds. Now, one thing that I have to admit is if you're like looking for like a plot to really be invested in or really gritty emotional romance, these are not going to be what you're looking for, because frankly, in none of these, this is gonna sound like I didn't like the books, but I promise I loved these. But in none of these I really cared about the plot, which sounds bad, but it's just because I cared about the writing. The writing was lovely, and I was just really happy to be there and come along. I just didn't really care where we were going. So yeah, I guess that's my final opinion. I love the feel of these, and I will read literally anything India Holton writes. They are delightful, and her writing is fantastic. One last thing. I really, really like how much these girls get to be like girly while being smart. How much they get to wear frilly dresses and things. I don't know, I just really like that. Alright, now let's hope I have the dress done and let's look at it together. Alright, this is the dress. As you can see, I did put a little bow on it and I'm quite pleased. I will show you the embroidery. It is a little croissant, a little tea, and a little cinnamon bun. I'm pleased. And I just really like this fabric. I think it's nice. And I like how swooshy the skirt is. Yeah. And I like a little, memory for this book series because I really, really like it. And I had so much fun making this with you. And I'm so excited to see you next week, friend. And I hope you have a lovely, lovely time until then.